So, welcome to this episode of Menopause Conversations. I'm delighted, as always, to have an amazing guest join me today. Goes without saying, I sort of talk about the product of my next guest every week with my brilliant colleague, June Potts. And we never, ever tire from watching what my next guest, Emma Lazenby, has produced in conjunction with amazing colleagues, Diane Dancerbrink and Hazel Hayden. Let me introduce you to Emma, and Emma will tell you a little bit more about herself. But Emma Lazenby is an award-winning filmmaker and founder of ForMed Films. Okay, she's got a powerful track record in creating the most stunning, visually impactful films on health, social issues, bringing important and very much sometimes underrepresented topics to the table in ways that make it accessible, interesting, and what I always say, emotionally memorable. She partnered particularly with Diane and Hazel around the topic of menopause, and have created the beautiful, stunning film Cycle of Change. It's a groundbreaking video, and I urge everyone to watch it. We will put the link in the notes so that people can see it. And it talks about menopause in a really accessible way and relatable way. So welcome, Emma. Lovely to have you with us.
Hi, lovely to be here.
So tell us a little bit about, because I'm fascinated. I mean, everyone else's job is more interesting than my own. Tell us how you founded Form Ed Films. How did you arrive in this space throughout your life? Is it something you always wanted to do?
I've always been an artist and a drawer from when I was young. I went into animation when I went to university. I just wanted to try it out and I loved it and I wanted things to keep moving. I worked in commercial animation for a long time from 1998 when I graduated, so I am quite old. 1998 to till now I'm still doing it. But
Yeah.
I worked for commercial animation companies making music videos and children's series like Charlie and Lola. I was a designer for Charlie and Lola. Um, and then
Wow.
I was in London, I was in Scotland, London, moved to Bristol. I decided I wanted to make one last film before I stopped animating. I decided that I'd give up. So I made a film about midwifery and childbirth to celebrate my mum, who was retiring at the time, and it won a BAFTA. So I kind of went, oh, I should carry on doing what I do. I'm good at this. I should do this, not retrain to be a midwife. Um, so that's what I've done.
You've got a BAFTA?
Yeah, it's over there.
Oh my gosh, I so wish I'd known that. Because I said, make sure we have that so we can see it. Oh wow, that's amazing, Emma. So what was that film called? Well, the thing you
That
thought was going
that
to be your last film.
that
What was it called?
that was Mother of Many. So it's a celebration of childbirth and midwifery, and it's still seen a lot by midwives. And I love midwives. I think they're amazing. Obviously, my
Oh,
mum is one. My mum was
yeah.
a brilliant one. But I was just inspired by the women in my family have all been medical. My grandma, who's on this picture, oh, this is a picture of my mum. Oh, there's my mum holding
Oh,
the baby.
what's your mum called?
She's called Pam.
Pam, we celebrate you. What a wonderful. So what is it about midwives that you love, particularly to say like your
um,
mum? What is it, the qualities that they bring that you love?
it's the calmness and the being in this intensely, um, just this day of people's lives that they will remember forever. That it can go really well. It can often not go as you want it to. It's a very stressful career. I don't think we celebrate enough, and I think with a lot in the media and with things that have happened in the recent years, midwives don't get the celebration that they should get. They do an incredible job in very stressful situations.
Yeah,
Uh,
they assist us in giving life, don't
yeah,
they?
they do. They
They
do.
they really, really do. I always feel for my midwife who came back from her own maternity leave the night my daughter was born, and she was really thrown in at the deep end. I didn't have a great sort of experience myself. But I really always have looked back and felt for her. I just thought, oh my gosh, she did absolutely the best that she
Yeah,
could,
yeah.
under, like you say, really difficult circumstances. So tell us a little bit about your grandma so that I can
Oh,
see.
my grandma, she was a matron. My mum was a midwife. My sister works in, oh, I can never get it right. She always tells me I've got it wrong. She's an optometrist. um, I think. She deals with eye muscles. And
Yeah.
my niece is in Cambridge studying to do medicine. So I've got a
Wow.
really, the females in my family, only the females, are all medical. And I really always wanted to do something medical, but I'm an artist and I've never had the medical brain. I love
Ah.
medicine. I love um, just I'm very interested in the journeys that people go through and the incredible things that people do in medicine. I think when I've shadowed doctors through working from so I started ForMed Films in 2015 after the BAFTA and after art directing a Disney series and working for Aardman for a long time. So I had a long animation.
Aardman as well. Wow. My goodness. Look, listen, you're just you're way too humble about all of this. Okay. So 2015. So you finally land and you think, okay, I want to do something for myself.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And this it was my dream really to do something medical. So this is how I can do something medical to be, I feel like I can do a lot more good with the skills that I've got to make these films to help people. So we've made films about before I started Formed for Art, I made a film about radiotherapy for children going through radiotherapy.
Ah.
Made general anesthetics, local anesthetics, maternal mental health, um, menopause, smear tests. Oh, I can't remember.
Wow.
Lots of films, domestic abuse. We just starting a film for dads at the moment about birth for dads, kind of the whole journey of birth.
Wow. I think that's so powerful because, like I said in my own example, I also feel for my husband
Hmm.
who had no preparation whatsoever. I mean, it's hard enough watching something happen to the person you love, but actually there's no one holding you up. I think that's
Yeah.
really, really powerful. What was your inspiration for doing something for dads?
It's a commission from the council in Blackburn. We've made quite a lot of films around the north of Britain with different services. So the birth trauma service, the parent and infant relationship service, and we worked with these two incredible midwives to make a film about the physiology of childbirth, about the hormones and mechanics. So we've kind of been moving around different places in the north, and this was just a discussion that I had with somebody in the family hub there who's brilliant, who's just really brilliant. I met her for the first time on Monday. I
Oh,
was up in the north. So it was a conversation we had about dads needing to understand the journey more and be more prepared for the journey. But I was at another conference at the weekend, Let's Talk Birth, and it just really opened my eyes to, men not being noticed in the birthing situation and that, like your husband's experience, that nobody's holding them up and they are just equally as important as the mum in the baby's life.
massively. And I do think a certain amount of trauma
Yeah, yeah,
stays
definitely.
with men because they're seeing everything. I can remember
Yeah,
saying to my husband, "Have they started?" I had to have an emergency cesarean, and I remember saying to my husband, "Have they started yet?" But of course, all the anaesthetic had kicked in. I was totally oblivious, but he was seeing everything.
yeah,
And you can't unsee that. And so, so men are, I do believe, in partners, because same-sex couples,
yeah,
etc. You're carrying that trauma. So
yeah,
it can be difficult. So it sounds like you were destined to be in
yeah.
some way, shape, or form involved, and you found your own way, which I love. I love stories like that. You found your own way. So is it okay if we get into some questions? And obviously, I did ask you before if it was okay to sort of say, you come to the conversation of menopause having some experience yourself. I mean, how is it? How's it going when you think about your own situation?
My own situation was helped a lot by this film. I didn't realize I was in it for a long time, and I thought I was having a breakdown, and I had such a lot of anxiety and mental issues really to do with this. But it's going a lot better, I think, since making the film and kind of really pushing to get my medication right. And I'll talk to anybody about menopause. I
Love it.
uh I I feel kind of excited sometimes about it in this kind of change, this change in time. I'm yeah, I'm not too daunted by it as I was at the beginning.
Yeah, I love it. Can you tell me where in the video you are? Because now that I can hear your voice, I
Oh,
can like.
you'll hear me. I'm probably the only northern person in there, I think. I talk about crying all the time. I
Oh,
can't remember.
I'm going to tell everybody, as I told you before, we show this always. June and I show this in our workplace session, so I can almost hear exactly where this
What
comes in the video.
I actually feature in the film as well. There's a somebody walking along eating an apple with a greyhound, and that's
Is
me
that
and my
you?
dog. Yeah, I put me in it like a cameo. I've never been in any of the films that I've made before.
Oh my
This is,
gosh,
oh,
I
I
can't.
have.
This just makes it even more super special. And if people have no idea what we're talking about, please, please, please press pause here, watch the video, and then come back, and it will all make sense. So it's you with the apple and the greyhound.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, it was a real labor of love, the film, really, in just gathering an experience of lots of women. I've skipped
Yeah.
your questions, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. No, no, no. I love it. I love it. So let's tell people what it's called. So it's called Cycle of Change. How did you come up with that title? Because the imagery is beautiful. Can you describe to people how very clever play on words, Cycle of Change, starts with someone on a bicycle, doesn't it?
It does, it does. It's kind of an obvious metaphor, really, the cycle, because it's about your cycle changing, about your
Mm.
menstrual cycle changing, and about that cycle when you're cycling and it's all going smoothly, it rotates and rotates and you come back to the same place. And I'm excited about the bit where the cycle is just one day is a cycle.
Yes.
Does that happen?
No. And you know, and that's the thing, isn't it? You know, we can be all types of women. There's, you know, this saying that we're four different types of women. We can be all four different types of women. Some people say in a day. I go in an hour. You know, in
Mm,
5 minutes, you can. I often joke when I say to people, you know, like intimacy, you know, you can flick the kettle on and like intimacy is
mm.
like, yes, that would be great. By the time it's finished boiling, it's like, no, I'm definitely not interested in any intimacy, you know,
Yeah.
and your mood can ebb and flow like that.
Mm.
So was it quite easy then to come up with the title Cycle of
No,
Change?
it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't obvious. And our producer Liz, it was her idea. We'd kind of been throwing ideas around, and it's what we ended up with, and it's the right title. I know it's the right title.
Oh, it is. So let's ask you, so obviously you could do that by yourself, you know, the animation is absolutely stunning. What is there a name to that type of animation that you used?
It's just 2D animation.
Yeah.
It's always made by, scanning textures and making it's a similar technique to Charlie and Lola. No, it's not. It's not. It's a way I've always worked. I've always been very 2D. I like things to be quite flat, and so you have characters on a background. And I don't like 3D and CGI. I'm quite scared of that.
Oh, okay.
There's quite a big team of us involved when we make a film. I'm the director. I direct the company and the films usually, but we do have other directors sometimes in. We have a producer, an editor, animators, and compositors, which means sticking the backgrounds and the characters and putting effects on, and a composer and a sound
Wow.
designer. I think
So
that's everybody.
there's a lot of people. How long did it take to actually, from start to finish, to create the film?
This film took ages because before we even began, we took a year to try and find the funding. And it was hard it's hard to find funding for something like this. It was a passion project, and we often get commissioned to make films. Commissions is a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I just knew that this film needed to exist. I started thinking about it probably when I started ForMed Films around then. I thought about it for a long time because I didn't know what was going to happen when menopause came. And I was really nervous about it. I was quite concerned about it. And then in the lockdown, things changed. And before the lockdown, I've been going to the doctors a lot for different things like itchy skin and migraines and anxiety. And I didn't link anything together. And then in the lockdown, like lots of people going through coming into perimenopause in the lockdown is hard because you thought you were going crazy because we're in a lockdown.
Mm.
But the anxiety and the kind of feeling of having a breakdown just grew and grew, and I just couldn't hold myself together. And I'd wanted to make this film for a long time. I'd spoken with Diane about it before, but when I realized that this was actually perimenopause and this is how it was affecting me, I felt
Mm.
like I was going insane. I felt real passion that I had to make this film, so we really pushed it.
Oh,
But you know,
sorry.
when I realized what it was, when I realized this was actually it, I started to push because this film needed to exist. People need to know those early signs and be able to work out what to do about it instead of like me and like many people feeling like what is happening to me? Am I ill? Am I having a breakdown?
Yeah. It's
You
so
need
so
to,
it's so powerful, and I resonate all of those things. I think what I really heard you say there was it was almost a mandate for connecting your own dots, you know.
yeah.
We know that things are smoother, that, you know, if you know what to expect, when it shows up, it's not such a complete surprise. You
Mm,
can be empowered to embrace your menopause, and it is very possible to have a positive menopause, you know, when we have more information available to us, it can be positive. So tell me then about Diane and Hazel's part in this and the approach that you wanted to take by involving others. What was the thinking behind that?
well, we, as a company, we always work with the clinical team, and they are experts in this. I'd met Diane earlier because I'd been so interested in making a film like this and wanting to make this, and she is such a genius, as you know, and a brilliant person. And all of her campaigning, it just really fits with what we're doing. And in the being a not-for-profit and wanting to make things for social good, the way that she works is, I just think she's amazing. So I'd
Touche,
spoken with,
touche to all of that. She is an absolute powerhouse, and as is Hazel. Hazel does great work.
yeah,
But you know what? I always say this. You know, the grassroots supporters, people like Diane,
mm,
have just been talking about this forever and using their own pain and turning it into their
yeah,
power and their passion piece. And actually, there are some really great people in this space, aren't they? But they don't have necessarily the big platforms of maybe
yeah,
celebrities talking about this topic. You know, everyone's welcome in this space. That's the first thing I would say. But I would say it's really important that we do acknowledge the people who probably started the conversations and have
yeah,
done so much, like Diane's campaign to actually get it taught in schools, to make sure that medical students are taught about it, and to make sure companies are talking about her three key aims. So
mm,
yes, big kudos to her. So it doesn't surprise me that you came into each other's circles. So
yeah.
yeah, so
Oh, and
and Hazel, yes.
Hazel. We were going to the Bird Trust for Nursing, who we'd worked with before. So we were trying to find a nurse to be a big part of the project to help to lead it. And I'd looked because I lived in Bristol at the time when we started the project. I found Hazel and we met for a coffee and just immediately just thought she's amazing as well. She just had so much knowledge and was really keen to be involved and knew Diane, and it just felt like it slotted together really quite easily. The three of
Yeah.
us slotted
Oh no,
together.
I love that. I love that. And what is it about the nursing role? Again, obviously from your family of your powerful women in the medical space, what was it about someone with nursing that you felt would bring a different element?
I think nursing is such a different view to being a doctor. I think it's a lot more it's a lot it's a lot more actually listening to the person and being with the person and caring. I'm not sure. I'm not putting doctors down.
No, no,
I
no,
just
no,
think
no,
that I
no,
just
no,
think
not at all.
nurses
It's a
nurses
different
are
viewpoint, isn't it? It's a different
it is a
perspective.
different it is a different perspective, and it's like Hazel being an expert in menopause and in this whole stage. If you Yeah, it's just really focusing on the woman and the woman's well-being. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a different you know, there's lots of people coming at you know, like people who, like, I sit for long periods of time just listening to people's experiences. I'm not a
mm,
doctor, I'm not a prescriber. We still can do so much by validating people's experiences so that they can come and say, and you can go, yeah, that
mm,
really does all sound like perimenopause and you're not on your own. And so we can really validate people's experiences. And I see people actually walk out the door feeling so much better about their own experience, about what they can do about it. So I agree. We're not putting anyone in a corner, shall we
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Everyone's coming and doing the best that they can in this topic of conversation. And Hazel has her own successful clinic as well too. So
Mm.
I guess the thing is then, so obviously it does appear like everyone's talking about menopause, or are they? Is the message getting to everyone? Because I'm not sure it is, which is why I think your film is so powerful, because I'm always very aware, Emma, that not everyone works for a large global company. Not everyone has access to an employee assistance program. Not everyone exists in a culture or a community where it's okay to even talk about menopause. So what is it that when you were thinking about this film and obviously getting experts in, what was your hope for the film in terms of where it would end up, or its the capacity for it to have reach?
It was very to it felt like this was missing in um in the conversation. I think there is a lot of conversation about menopause, but it feels like it's just grown over the last few years. Well, I mean, making this film, the conversation has grown bigger and bigger. But I was trying to find out. I think because there's lots of menopause organizations, but I felt like, well, I didn't know I was in menopause, so I wouldn't be looking at the menopause organizations. This understanding that very early stage is completely what the point of the film was, to help people to see that early stage and to recognize it and to find what they need to support themselves. Um, we want it to reach everywhere. It's why it's a free resource, so people can embed it in their intranets, in their websites, and use it anywhere where it will help to start this conversation and help this conversation to begin with people mainly in, the 30s and 40s, to help them to realize what's happening. We would like to make another one. We talked about it when we were finishing this one about postmenopause. I hope we do one day.
Please, can I be in it? Can I have my North London Cockney voice in it? Because
Yeah.
I'm a postmenopausal woman. I was perimenopausal for 16 years, Emma, and I became perimenopausal at 36 with a 2-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
My
What
daughter's
it feels like it must be so hard. I know so many people, because people do have, I mean, I've got friends in the early 40s and they're not sure that this is menopause, what the perimenopause. It must be so hard, that mixing of the hormones. Do you think that's really
It's the
common?
perfect roller coaster. Like if you want a collision course with two roller coasters, just put puberty and perimenopause together. As my hormones were rushing out, my daughters were rushing in. So she's 18 now, and she's only ever known me as a perimenopausal person. I became postmenopausal last year at
Mm.
52. So it was a long old time, like 16 years. Like you say, 16 months of anything seems like a long time.
Yeah.
16 years raising a child. I can think it can leave you with loads of feelings of guilt, inadequacy,
Mm.
loss of self, loss of status, all of those sorts of things. I'm a coach and I definitely felt all of those things. And I don't think, particularly I've got Asian heritage, so I'm half Sri Lankan. I should have been well prepared in my mid 30s to go, I should know about that perimenopause thing, but I had no idea.
Mm.
Culturally, my mum didn't want to talk about it. Um, so I really did convince myself like something's terribly wrong with me, but I wasn't supported by the medical profession either. So they sort of left me thinking there's something not quite right with
Yeah.
me. And I
Yeah.
had worried well put on my medical notes because I was a young mum. Well, not young mum, I was a first time mum. And I can't tell you how many times they said, are you a stressed first time mum?
Mm.
Rather than listening to what I was saying. So I really do feel that that is an area that, we know that COVID, lots more people are having issues with their fertility. So
Yeah.
I think this is a much more common topic than maybe we realize. And I think the whole perimenopause thing, as it blends with fertility and our reproductive years, I was still menstruating all that time. So in
Yeah.
the eyes of the medical profession, it's like, I
Yeah.
don't know what she's going on about. And then I think the whole postmenopause thing, you know, she's not here now, she's at university. And I do feel, huge waves of guilt.
Yeah.
Thinking, could I have done more? Could it have been a different? She'll tell you if you ever spoke to her, she's really proud of how I've navigated it and how informed she is.
Mm.
But I'd love to see more stuff out there about how do we help parents who are experiencing this and trying to juggle careers and stuff as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's all, and I'd love a film about postmenopause because you know what? It is great. I've arrived in postmenopause, and tell you what, I'm really happy. I feel like I own things now. Yes, it's easier. So I would love us to celebrate the next 35 years because we sort of talk
Yeah.
about perimenopause, menopause, and then postmenopause, you know, like
I
that.
mean, but I felt like for all this whole project, I felt like so there's premenopause, there's perimenopause, there's menopause that's just the one day, there's postmenopause, but postmenopause has got osteoporosis and all the different things that can happen and
Yes.
different symptoms. But there should be another word for when your cycle when your hormones have evened off.
Yeah.
What's that called? What's that?
Yeah.
That's postmenopause, but surely postmenopause is the bit where the symptoms are still going.
Yes, absolutely. And this is what frustrates me. It's almost like we've sold people this narrative of, get to menopause because we don't really talk about postmenopause. That
Mm.
it's like, when you blow out a match, people think it's like whew, match is out. But what about that long trail of smoke that just keeps going,
Yeah.
keeps going, keeps going, keeps going? It's like there's still energy there,
Mm.
and I know for myself, Emma, if I have a really bumpy period of stress, you'll always have an undercurrent of your hormones. Well, I really feel the impact of that
Mm.
still. People in postmenopause talk about like, can you still have your cycle? Yes. You might not be bleeding, but your cycle is now regulated largely with full moons and new moons.
Yeah.
So when, it's not uncommon to hear postmenopausal women like, I don't feel quite right. I feel a bit strange. There's a lot to us. We're complex in the best possible ways. And
Mm.
so I would like women to be curious about, well, what happens, like you say, what's the next 35 years going to be like? Because what we don't want, and I think this is a narrative, women think, okay, so once I've got to the menopause, it's all fine.
Mm.
That's not
I'm
necessary.
not expecting that at all.
We need to embellish it, is what I'm saying. I'm
Mm.
not saying it's not fine. I'm not saying it is fine. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is, in the same way we're educating people about perimenopause, could we educate them that, do you know what? Strength training throughout the whole process is
Mm.
really important. Exercising, your nutrition, managing your sleep, your relationship with alcohol, all of these things. I think there's so many more conversations to be had.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely there is. And I
Yeah,
think
keep
a
me
lot
in
of
keep me in mind, keep me in mind. Honestly, I think
it.
listen, I know the Birmingham accent is really, popular, and I think Irish accents. I think there's a place for a North London slash
And
Devon accent.
definitely there is. And all that needs to be is just real experiences. You can hear real experiences, and you can hear when people are reading something out. All that matters to me is that they're real stories and real experiences.
Yeah, and yeah, and I and,
And
and,
I
I,
do
and I,
like accents, but
you do like accent, yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
just bear it in mind. Um, and that's the thing, isn't it? When we have these hopes for how far, I mean, I always remember speaking to lovely Dr. Nigat Arif, and she told me about, how distrusting marginalised communities are of the National Health Service and health professionals generally, because we've been
Mm,
misrepresented, underrepresented, not represented at all in
mm,
research. And she told me something really powerful about, I think it was someone from a community, a marginalised community, and there are things around sort of breast screening,
mm.
notoriously low rates of attendance from these communities, and yet high prevalence of cancers. And she was
Yeah,
saying, like, can you imagine? She said, for someone to come and have to be taught how to check their breasts for lumps. She said, we literally got these people from this community and we had frozen peas and a bit of dough, and they had to come with their husbands because they wouldn't be allowed to come on their own,
yeah.
because of their cultural norms. And she said, like, so they were feeling for this pea under the dough. And it was in that moment, Emma, that I just thought, I think we think everyone gets to hear these messages,
Mm.
and they don't. So
Uh,
so the fact that you've made it free, I think is wonderful. And I think it does have that capacity to really, really reach people. I mean, when you were making about the topic of menopause, how important was it for, I mean, what was the end point for you? What did you hope when people get to the end credits? What is your hope for people when they've watched it?
Um, that they, from knowing nothing about menopause, know a lot more about menopause and can kind of recognize it and see it in themselves, seeing the families and the mums and different people, and that they will start conversations from it, that they will be awake to what that is. That's what I hoped people would
Oh, well,
would be.
certainly, and I gave you some feedback when we came on before we started recording, but we've had all sorts of responses to this film, all good, I have to say. People have sat and watched it when they've come into a room and just it's opened up conversation brilliantly because you're not asking people to show vulnerability immediately in a workplace. But people say, yeah, I recognize myself in that, or I recognize my mum or my auntie, or we have people talk about their historical relationships with family members who maybe are no longer here. And I think it's realizing, particularly for men and people who maybe don't want to get involved in this topic, realizing it affects all of us.
Mm.
It really does. So, what were the challenges in doing this film? Because I'd love to know. I mean, how, when you sort of set about it, sounds great. Yeah, let's do all of that. But actually, what were the challenges and practicalities? And how did you recruit the people who also lended their voice and
So
experience?
so it was a giant project. When we got the funding, we started doing a survey where we got with Diane's help and Diane's great network of menopause support in Facebook. We
Yeah,
got a lot of people answered our survey, which was asking people in all the different stages of menopause what it was like for them, what the concerns, their experiences and advice were. And so we gathered this knowledge, and I did lots of reading and researching.
yeah.
We ran workshops where people in the different stages came, so before menopause, perimenopause, post-menopause, uh, and after they thought the menopause had finished. We ran workshops where people came together and talked, which was the best part of it, just the having conversations with people all in a room together just talking. We made, I couldn't find one to show you, but we made these menopause medals while we were doing the workshops. We sat and sewed menopause medals.
What a great idea. So people are involved, a bit distracted, just maybe just
Yeah,
preoccupied.
yeah, but just doing a creative thing and
Lovely.
thinking about what to put on there. Like embrace your age. We got a lot of things printed out from the survey of people's experiences and
Oh,
advice,
brilliant.
just little keywords. Then we interviewed 20 people about their experiences one to one. So we gathered in the workshops and in the interviews, we gathered people's real experiences and edited those down into short versions, which are all on the website, on the cycleofchange.org website.
Wow.
Um, it was a challenge. The main challenge was that I had I had 20 hours of footage of people talking about their menopause experiences, and I'm trying to make a 5-minute film from it. So the main challenge was there was so much amazing things that people said, and people's experiences. There's so much different experiences, and everyone's experiences being different, not difficult, sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
It was working out what to do with that. So I've got this box of people's experiences. That
Wow.
I have a process that I really like where I gathered people's speech into different sections. So what people had talked about, so kind of menstruation, and I chopped them all out and I have little snippets of things that people have said, and then it's kind of working out that by juggling them into a good shape and constantly editing and putting the audio in and making sure you don't get the same person twice in a row. We were trying to get as many different voices in as possible, so
Yes.
we got 32 in there.
I
In the
love that. That's a great stat. 32 voices. Wow.
And so the main challenge was chopping 20 hours down into 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, knocking things over.
Ah, 20 hours. Yeah. And wow, I love
And
the fact that you've got a system there and that you've kept everything. That's like curated properly, isn't
well,
it?
I always keep everything. I've got lots of boxes. All the films have got a box of the interviews. Yeah, it's all kept because there's such a lot of power in all of that stuff. You could make, lots more films with those.
Yes, yes,
Um,
exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? And actually, it's a really nice way of honoring people's experiences that you're
yeah.
keeping them, and you could repurpose them at some stage and do more with them. But I love that whole creative process. I'm not really a creative person. I've got creative elements. I'm a scientist by trade, but I can be creative, and I do appreciate like the art and the process that you're doing, because it really just comes alive. I think one of my favorite bits is like the covers on, covers off, and then the lady's roaring, like she's like, rah, you know, um, because I think it's so symbolic, and I really also love going the whole story. Then you've got someone cycling, 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 and then she gets to the top of the hill,
Mm.
and then it's just that it sort of gives that impression, not effortless and not that it's easy, but there's a calmness that comes, and an acceptance, and I
Mm.
love when you see the vegetable patch and the lady says ashwagandha and all the different herbs and things that she's going through. I think it's just beautiful. And often what I know when I think about psychology is, anything that is memorable emotionally, if it's emotionally positive and charged, we're more likely to remember it. And I think you've absolutely done a great job in that respect with it.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of it's people's voices, real voices talking about real experiences are always have a lot of impact. And they engage. If it was actors, if it was any other way, it wouldn't be the same film.
No. So I would like to personally, and I know you would have done anyways, just say thank you to all those people who lended
Oh
their
yeah,
voices, whether it made it into the film or not. Your
yeah.
testimony is so powerful, and story, as I say, facts tell, stories sell. If we want to engage people into this topic, we need them to hear the stories, the lived experiences, because that's what really engages us and makes us want to get involved and do more. So I guess then the last thing to ask you about is what's next? What's coming up next?
We're just starting a film about dads and birth. So the whole journey of birth for dads, not necessarily all bad, but just looking at birth for dads and what dads need to know and about, yeah, just sharing that journey, which we've never shared. We've done quite a lot of birth films before about physiology, about mental health, about trauma, about parent and infant relationships. So this is kind of fits in with those films of about birth, but for dads.
Yeah, great. Well, when we
And
stop
and
record,
I've got lots of ideas.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Okay,
I,
okay.
I've got another passion project that I'm pushing to try and make some films about cleft lip and palate because it's such a challenging thing that people, if you find you're going to have a baby with a cleft lip or palate, it's quite difficult.
And is
Difficult.
and is it still quite common,
It is,
Emma?
yeah, yeah. It's just as common as it always was. It's just a natural, there's nobody seems to know why it happens. But I've got lots of things that I want to make, and yeah, just trying to find the ways to make them all.
Exactly, which leads me on to my next point, because actually, am I right in saying your company is a community interest company?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not
you're
for
not for
profit.
profit. So,
Yeah.
you rely on people either commissioning things with you. And what I would say is, like I said to you before, in terms of the network, you're amazing at doing medical films, workplace well-being. I can already think of two people that I want to connect you with around the whole dads thing,
Mm.
because I think they would be hugely supportive of you and again open up your network, because we can't talk about these things just in the context of workplaces. We do need to think about the communities, our family members, our extended, people who are related to the work, people who work in the workplace. We need to
Mm.
get broader conversations going. So I think it's really important. We want to help. So if there's anyone watching this, and who has the funding through your employee social responsibility groups, those sorts of things, I strongly recommend that you reach out to Emma, because they do amazing medical films also. They've been up for multiple awards. I mean, she's only BAFTA award winning. I mean, what more do you want? So I mean, I hope we have more conversations. You and I are definitely going to speak offline, but I suppose for now, Emma, it's about saying what's going to keep you going. What will keep fire in the tank for you, do you think, as you look to make more of these amazing educational films?
What will keep me going? I don't know. Um, I
where do you get your inspiration and motivation from then? What, what keeps you waking up every day want to do it?
I live on a canal boat, which I love, and I wake up in nature every day and I walk a lot and I talk to people. I'm a very friendly person. I'll talk to anybody. People's experiences and stories, inspire me completely. But finding different things and hearing about different things like burnout, I would love to make something about burnout. It's just keeping my eyes open, keeping looking around at the world and finding how to make those things, seeing where there's a gap and finding how to fill that gap.
Yeah, I love that. I hear curiosity in all of that.
There is
You
a
have a
lot of
curious
curiosity.
mind, yeah, which is wonderful. Well, I'm going to say for now, I mean, Emma, how can people know more about you? Obviously, you've got a YouTube channel, haven't you? But
I got you.
how can people know more about you and be in touch with you?
Um, Go to formedfilms.co.uk or just search for my name or for ForMed Films. Email me at emma@formedfilms. Look at our films on the YouTube channel. All of them are free to share or to use wherever they're useful. Yeah, just get in touch.
What a lovely
I love
person you are. You're so generous in heart and spirit. And I think it is brilliant. But you've added so much context now. I can't wait to speak to June to tell her all the little snippets that you said about us, particularly the greyhound, the apple, and walking along. That's absolutely gorgeous. But thank you so much for being generous with your time and giving us the insights to what is an absolutely beautiful film. So please, 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 once you finish watching this, everybody, go watch the film. It's 5 minutes. You know what? If you are experiencing this, maybe sit down with your loved one and watch it together. Because honestly, it takes a lot of the pressure off and you can watch it together and talk about it afterwards. But thank you so much, Emma. It's been great to speak to you.
Yeah, lovely to speak to you. Thank you for
Thank you.
time. Lovely to meet you. Thanks for sharing the film.
You are so welcome.